Inca trade. Introduction. The Inca Empire spanned what is modern-day Peru, Ecuador, and Chile. Although they did not have any formal trading with outside civilizations, they did develop a form of trade that would help unify the empire. In today's activity, we will explore how the Inca developed intricate roads to help build communication and trade throughout its vast empire. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how the Inca developed roads, a road system, so that they could trade and communicate with each other. The Inca Empire controlled such a vast territory, which is a big territory, that they needed a way to communicate with all of its corners. They set up a network of messengers by which important messages would be conveyed. These messengers were known as shakoi and were chosen from the strongest and fittest male youngsters. They ran many miles a day to relay messages. They lived in cabins or tamboos along the roads, usually in groups of 4 or 6. When a shakoi was spotted, another one would run to meet him. He would run beside the incoming messenger, trying to listen and to memorize the message. He would also rely on the quipu if he was carrying one. The tired shakoi would stay rest in the cabin while the other one will run to the next relay station. In this way, messages could travel over 250 miles a day. Okay, so they took these really fit young men and had them literally run with a message. They would run a certain length. They would relay the message to someone else. The person who had just ran would rest in a cabin, and the next person would keep running with the message. And they would continue to do that, and sometimes messages could go as far as 250 miles a day. In case of an invasion or a rebellion, an emergency message was sent through a chain of bonfires. As each group of shakoi saw the smoke, they would light a bonfire that could be seen by the next cabin or tambo. The Sapa Inca would send his army toward the bonfire before the cause was known. Usually on his way, he would meet a messenger and learn from him the exact nature of the emergency. So one way they were able to communicate was through bonfires. If there was somebody going against the Inca or an invasion, they would light bonfires, and each cabin would light it, and then the army would start moving towards the bonfires. Archaeological findings show that some tambos or relay stations were more elaborate than others. They were probably used as a place for officials or the Sapa Inca to stay during their traveling across the empire. So remember, the tambos, they were just cabins where the messengers stayed. Central economy. The Incas had a centrally planned economy, perhaps the most successful ever seen. Its success was in the efficient management of labor and the administration of resources they collected as a tribute. So you guys, a tribute is stuff they collect from conquered people. So if they were to conquer an area and people, the people they conquered would pay them with goods. Okay. Collective labor was the base for economic productivity and for the creation of social wealth in the Inca society. By working together, people of the Alu, the center of the economic productivity, created such wealth that the Spanish were astonished with what they had encountered. Every citizen was required to contribute with his labor, and refusal of laziness was punishable with the death penalty. Refusal or laziness was punishable by the death penalty. Labor was divided according to region. Agriculture would be centralized in the most productive regions, ceramic pot production, road building, textile, and other skills according. The government collected all the surplus after local needs were met and distributed it where it was needed. In exchange for their work, citizens had free clothing, food, health care, and education. All right, so in the Inca Empire, you're required to work, and your job would be different. It would be agriculture, meaning like farming, if that's where you lived and it was productive there, ceramic, building things with ceramics, building the roads, and other skills, okay? So then you got paid because you got free clothing, free food, healthcare, and education. The Incas did not use money. In fact, they did not need it. Their economy was so efficiently planned that every citizen had their basic needs met. Economic exchanges were made using the barter system, by which people traded with each other for things they needed. Archaeologists believe that there was no trading class in the Inca society. However, there was external trading in small scale with the tribes outside the empire, mostly from the Amazon. Okay, so they didn't have money, they bartered or traded with each other. The Incas created the most successful centrally planned economy that contributed to the creation of social wealth in Inca society. The Alu was at the center of the Inca Empire economic success. Alus were composed of families that lived near each other in the same village or settlement. They also provided social cohesion, as people who were born in one Alu also married within the same one. Each Alu specialized in the production of certain products depending on its location. Agricultural Alus were located close to fertile land and produced crops that would be optimized for the type of soil. Their output would be given to the state, which in turn would redistribute it to other locations where the product was not available. Surplus would be kept in kolkas, storage houses along the roads and near population centers. Other Alus would specialize in producing pottery, clothing, or jewelry. Skills were transferred from generation to generation within the same Alu. Alus produced virtually anything necessary for everyday living, which would be distributed by the state to other Alus. Whew. The abundance and diversity of resources and its availability during bad crops and war made the population loyal to the government and to the Sapa Inca. Okay, so the Incas had a really smooth running economy. So they lived in families and they worked with what they had near them. So if where you lived was rich in soil, then you planted or you farmed. If where you lived, um, there were storage houses along the roads, that's you would store stuff there. If there were ones who would specialize in pottery and jewelry. So, and you got these skills. If your father made pottery, then you were probably going to make pottery, or your mom. Okay, it kind of trickled down. Collective labor and taxes. There were three ways in which collective labor was organized. The first one was the Aini, to help a member of the community who was in need. Helping build a house or help a sick member of the community are examples of Aini. The second was Minka, or teamwork for the benefit of the whole community. Examples of Minka are building agricultural terraces and cleaning the irrigation canals. The third one was Mita, or the tax paid to the Inca. Since there were no currency taxes were paid with crops, taxes were paid with crops, cattle, textile, and specialty with work. Mita laborers served as soldiers, farmers, messengers, road builders, or whatever needed to be done. It was a rotational and temporary service that each member of the Alu was required to meet. They built temples and palaces, canals for irrigation, agricultural terraces, roads, bridges, and tunnels, and all without the technological assistance of the wheel. This system was a balanced system of give and take. In exchange, the government provided food, clothing, and medication. This system allowed the empire to have all the necessary produce available for redistribution according to the necessity and local interests. So they worked together basically. So any member of the community in need, they would help build a house or take care of people, and that was the Aini. The second was the Minka, or teamwork for the benefit of the community, and the third was the Mita. Okay, and that was the tax paid to the Inca. Mountain highways. The transportation network consisted of two main roads linking the north and the south, and a complex web of crossroads that reached nearly every village in the empire. This system of roads was essential for maintaining communication among the geographically widespread empire. Runners were needed because many of the roads were too steep for carts. Relay runners used a 10,000-mile-long network of roads to carry messages between government officials. These runners worked in teams to cover up to 250 miles each day. The roads were also used by the military, which could travel quickly to any region to protect the empire from invasion or to stop rebellions. The mountainous roads caused problems for traders in the region. Llamas were common in the Andes. The Inca used them as pack animals because llamas were capable of carrying heavy loads over the mountainous roadways. The llamas also provided a source of wool that was used to make cloth. Yarn was spun and boiled in dye. The dyed yarn was turned into fabric. Inca women paid their labor tax by spinning and dyeing wool. Llamas were also a food source for the Inca. Bridges. The deep river valleys called gorges in the Andes provided another unique challenge for the Inca. Roads were often interrupted by these gorges, which meant that some of the Incan cities were separated from each other. The Incas used ropes made from twined plant fibers to create suspension bridges that could reach across these gorges. Some of the bridges were over 300 feet long. One bridge, constructed in 1350 CE, lasted over 500 years. These rope suspension bridges were similar to today's modern suspension bridges. The roads and bridges of the Inca helped to unify the empire by enabling travel and trade. The road system made communication between the four regions of the empire easier. It also allowed the army to move quickly to wherever they might be needed. This all helped the emperor keep the sprawling Inca empire united, even as it continued to expand.